from the rubble.
Because they're the pictures Hamas wants you to see. Exactly my point, Mehdi. They're the pictures Hamas wants.
But there are also people that your government has killed. You accept that, right? You've killed children, or do you deny that?
No, I do not. I do not. I do not. First of all, you don't know how those people died, those children.
Oh, wow.
Is that the interview that got you canceled, or was it the Twitter beefs?
Everyone's now saying, oh, Afghanistan was a disaster. But I was the guy writing Afghanistan as a disaster in 2009, 10, 11, and getting attacked for it, like you're pro-Taliban, for saying that. I was the guy who marched against the Iraq war with millions of other people. We were told we were stooges for Saddam Hussein. Today, everyone's against the Iraq war. If you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing it.
You've been called an anti-Semite more than anyone else's table.
Yeah.
And people will sit there and, no, by me. I never called you an anti-Semite. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is that
you just say I should die.
You should not.
No, I
Did
said
you just say I should be killed?
No, I did not say that. I said, no, I did not say that.
Hold on.
Did your guest just say I should be killed? On live TV?
He basically said that you were a terrorist and you should die.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. Mehdi Hasan doesn't just speak truth to power. He steamrolls the sanitized lies of legacy media with surgical rage. And this brutal, raw conversation with Hasan Minhaj, Mehdi lays bare the rot inside American journalism, from MSNBC cowardly cancellation after calling Israeli war crimes on air, to CNN letting a guest joke about his death live. He dismantles the media's toxic addiction to access journalism like a surgeon exposing infection. If you don't play nice, you don't get invited back. But Mehdi never came to play. Whether it's dragging John Bolton off his pedestal or calling out the liberal elite for PEP's progressive accept Palestine, Mehdi reminds us that complicity isn't just silence, it's smiling while journalists die in Gaza. This isn't commentary, it's a war cry. Let's jump into it.
Yes, starting a new media outfit, it is tricky, but I think we've punched above our weight. I mean, our opening show last year was with Ehud Olmert, the former Prime Minister of Israel. We've had senators, members of Congress on the show. We've had Republicans. I mean, it's hard to get Republicans, Israeli guests, people to clash with. We've had celebrities on the show. I believe you've been on a podcast of ours.
You are a mentally ill person, but I love you regardless. And so is the other person on Twitter.
To lie down on a couch today with you today, Hasan.
So we've had some successes, but yeah, clearly it's an ongoing challenge. The interesting thing is, I think it's a challenge for everyone right now, because I think the old days of everyone just goes on Meet the Press are dying anyways. Yeah. Republicans have their right-wing safe space anyways. The people who now run the country, run the Senate, the House, the White House, the Supreme Court, they can just go to Fox or OANN or Newsmax and get, massaged. So it's a challenge for all of us. And I think access journalism is, as a model, super broken. The future is in danger, and people don't quite know how to get around it.
What is access journalism?
So this idea that you're trading coverage for closeness and proximity, right? You be my source in the White House, and I will write favorably about you. Or if not favorably, I won't write certain things you don't want me to write about. And I think the American public have wised up to that and are pretty upset about the corruption that is associated with access journalism. Not all access journalism is bad. If you are a host of a Sunday show, clearly you want Lindsey Graham to come back again, right? Now, does that psychologically influence you not to maybe grill Lindsey Graham as hard as you could do if you didn't care about him coming back? So my position will be, I don't care if you come back. That was my position at MSNBC. It's my position at Al Jazeera. I live in the moment. This interview needs to be the best possible interview. If that upsets you, if Vivek Ramaswamy never does an interview with me again, oh, what a shame. We'll cross that bridge. When I did John Bolton, he ended the interview. He was like, you're done. The time's up. John Bolton's never going to do another interview with me. Yeah. But I'm fine with that. The interview was worth doing in the way I did it. But look, I understand that other journalists are in different situations. If I'm a young congressional reporter trying to make a name for myself, I need contacts in Congress. I can't piss them all off with awkward questions. I get that. Right. But it is a dilemma for the viewer at home who doesn't like access journalism for understandable reasons.
Well, let's talk about the reason why both me and you are on YouTube. Gaza. Back in November 2023, days before your MSNBC show was canceled, you interviewed a senior advisor to Benjamin Netanyahu, okay? This was a 15-minute interview, but I just want to show you a moment.
I have seen lots of children with my own lying eyes being pulled from the rubble.
Because they're the pictures Hamas wants you to see. Exactly my point, Mehdi. They're the pictures Hamas wants.
But there are also people that your government has killed. You accept that, right? You've killed children, or do you deny that?
No, I do not. I do not. I do not. First of all, you don't know how those people died, those children.
Oh, wow.
Is that the interview that got you canceled, or was it the Twitter beefs?
You would have to ask MSNBC. How do I know why? They told me it was for business reasons.
What do you believe?
have to save that for another book.
Okay, and by the way, I'm happy to lift this. I'm happy to lift this. If you don't want to,
you can keep whatever you want.
If you don't want me to ask,
you could ask me.
Okay.
But my position is MSNBC knows why they cancel my shows. They have their reasons. They have every right to pull whatever show they want to pull. They offered me a chance to stay on as a guest anchor and on-air pundit. It's not really what I wanted to do, not in 2024. As you said at the start of the interview, I have a lot of opinions about a lot of things, so I couldn't be sitting on the bench. That's why I went out and said, look, let me just go, and I'll do my own thing. And they graciously let me leave.
We're both old enough to remember 9/11 and its aftermath, right? There was the shock, the Islamophobia, violent overreaction, and gradual resistance, peaking with the Iraq War protests, right? Yes. Now, today, it's universally viewed as a huge failure.
Yes.
In foreign policy,
yep.
Specifically American foreign policy and America's overreaction. 22 years later, October 7th happens. We have the same play, but much faster. Heartbreak, shock, racism, military overreaction, protest, backlash. The dust settles, question mark. What similarities do you see in the arcs of both of those stories in American history? What differences do you see?
It's a great question, and like you, I've thought long and hard about the analogy with the Iraq War on multiple levels. The lies that were told getting into the Iraq War, similar lies that were told about Gaza, about beheaded babies, and some of the propaganda that was laundered through quote-unquote liberal media, WMDs, etc., on the sheer level of suffering that was inflicted on a place in the Middle East, some faraway place that most Americans, Brits would struggle to find on a map. And of course, as you say, the legacy, the political fallout, where everyone at the time backed it blindly, jingoistically, emotively, and then slowly started edging away from the scene of the crime. And it was a crime, Iraq, and Gaza is also a crime. And, you know, Omar al-Akkad, who's an Egyptian-Canadian journalist, has a new book out called One Day Everyone Will Always Have Been Against This. It's about Gaza. When I saw that title, and I've read the book and I interviewed the guy, it just does bring back Iraq memories and war on terror memories. Sure. Everyone's now saying, oh, Afghanistan was a disaster. But I was the guy writing Afghanistan's a disaster in 2009, 10, 11, and getting attacked for it. Like, you're pro-Taliban for saying that. I was the guy who marched against the Iraq war with millions of other people. We were told we were stooges for Saddam Hussein. Today, everyone's against the Iraq war. So I do think in years to come, if we have a future, historians will look back and say a bunch of people in the West were on the wrong side of a genocide. And I think they will regret having been on the wrong side of history on this one. I just don't think you can defend what people have done to enable this genocide, be complicit in this genocide, from the President of the United States to media owners, to journalists who didn't say a word about their fellow journalists in Gaza being killed at record levels. I think a lot of people, if they have any shame whatsoever, and the problem is we have a lot of shameless people these days who you can't shame, will, and I'm not concerned about the right-wingers, because they are shameless. I'm talking about the liberals, the progressives, the people who feel good about themselves, take all the right stances on every issue except Palestine. The PEPs, progressive except Palestine. I think they will look back in years to come and feel utter shame for what they supported, or at least turned a blind eye to. I do believe that.
There's an interesting moment where you've engaged in this debate on legacy media. I don't know if you remember the CNN panel moment that you had with Ryan Girdisky.
Hard to forget that one.
Yeah. How do I pronounce his name? Ryan Girdisky?
I don't give a shit.
Whoa. Really?
I mean, he's an unpleasant man. I don't really care how you pronounce his name.
Okay. How do I pronounce it, Scott?
He doesn't care.
Girdisky. Okay.
None of us care.
If you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing.
You're called an anti-Semite more than anyone else's table.
Yeah.
And people would sit there and no, by me. I never called you an anti-Semite. Okay. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians. I'm used to it.
Yeah. I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is that
you just say I should die.
You should not.
No,
did you just say I should be killed?
No, I did not say that. No, I did not say that.
Hold on.
Did your guest just say I should be killed on live TV?
He basically said that you were a terrorist and you should die.
Yeah.
In your experience with American liberal media, do you think moments like that are outliers, or is something like this always bubbling underneath the surface?
No, always bubbling under the surface. I mean, this has been going on for years, including in liberal media. I mean, just on CNN itself, they have a commentator right now, Scott Jennings, who's become very popular online for dunking on liberals, who referred to Ilhan Omar as the member for Hamas, or some reference to pro-Hamas member of Congress, he called her. Like, this is a common trait. Unfortunately, Islamophobia, as you know very well, Hasan, and you've spoken about this on stage, has been normalized and mainstreamed in this country pre 9/11, but especially post 9/11 and post Donald Trump. And I think you can now say things about Muslims and Arabs and Palestinians that you couldn't say about anyone else. Jesse Waters on Fox recently talked about exploding birth rates. No one wants these people. There's so many of them. It is, Nazi-esque rhetoric, the way that Germans in the 1930s were talking about their Jewish minorities. So this is where we've got to now. And like I said, it's easy to dunk on Fox and the right wings. I expect nothing from the right. Yeah. It's where the real disappointment and frustration and anger comes from, is when liberal media is complicit and stuff, when people who would never dare say the stuff they say about Muslims, about any other minority community. And that is a real problem. And that night on CNN, I walked off set. I've been doing live TV for 15 years.
Wow, you walked off set?
I've never walked off set.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I waited till the break. Maybe I should have done it dramatically, pulled off the wire. I walked off in the ad break, and I had to, because I thought if I sit there and continue, Abby, to be fair to her, apologized, etc., the host. But for me, I felt I would be letting down not just myself, but a lot of people who were offended rightly on my behalf by just staying on the show and just chatting about the next story, whatever it was, climate change or whatever the next block was on. I had to make a point. This is unacceptable. You shouldn't be allowed to say stuff like this and get away with it on American television.
In that moment, were you thinking, there's a lot of thoughts crossing your mind. So trying to put you in that scene in that moment, and it may be tough for you to remember. Were you thinking to yourself, okay, is this person literally believing what he's saying? Does he literally want you to blow up? Or do you think he's trying to say a very dark joke that did not land?
Oh, I think he was trying to say a very dark joke. That he came with that. The idea that he came up with spontaneous, I'm sad. He came with that pre-packaged joke. You remember his denial when I said, you said this to me, and he says, oh, I thought you said you're pro-Hamas. Ridiculous. Why would I sit on stage and say I'm pro-Hamas? It's a ridiculous thing to say. Clearly, I didn't say that. By the way, even I did say that. It doesn't mean I get blown up. But I didn't say that. I don't support Hamas. He came with that one-liner, which he thought he could get away with. This is the key point. He thought he could get away with it and just carry on the show. And had I not walked out, they probably wouldn't have kicked him out as well. And I had to, and people have said to me afterwards, oh, you handled it so well. I don't think I handled it well. I was kind of super emotional, super angry. Luckily, I have no skills in life apart from God gave me a big mouth, and I was able to call him out right then and there, which maybe some other people wouldn't have done. But I don't take any credit for that. It's just something I did in the heat of the moment, instinctively, that I wasn't going to let that comment pass. I mean, you see my face if you watch that clip. I'm kind of like, did you just, and this beeper thing, by the way, is now become a very common trope in right-wing pro-Israel circles. If you go on Twitter, people will just put beeper emojis underneath pro-Palestinian accounts. Norman Finkelstein, who was stopped in the street in Brooklyn and somebody came and put a beeper in his pocket and to say he's pro-terrorist and he should die. So this is the kind of crap. Again, it's the dehumanization of Arabs, Muslims, Palestinians. You just wouldn't do this in any other political context.
Listen, this has been an amazing conversation.
Hasan Minhaj gave Mehdi Hasan more than just a mic. He gave him space to breathe, grieve, and burn down the rotten take of media hypocrisy, one truth bomb at a time. Props to Hasan for crafting a podcast format that feels less like an interview and more like a much-needed therapy session for truth-starved viewers. And as for Mehdi, the man didn't flinch. Whether it's calling out liberal cowardness, refusing to let genocide be whitewashed, or walking off CNN after a death joke aired live, he's doing what most journalists wouldn't dare. His new platform Zeteo is thriving because A, it's unshackled from corporate strings, letting Mehdi grill power without fear of getting benched, and B, it's filled with void of real journalism in a sea of sanitized noise. In a world where silence gets you prompted, those two chose the hard road, truth, and for that, we owe them both a hell of a lot more than applause. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys down in the comments. See you later.